Good day, grade 11s, and welcome to our theory recap video for term 2 as you are preparing for your June exam. So obviously you need to go through what you've done in term 1. I'm just going to be looking at and I've just put them all together, all the theory slides that we've done for this term. Also, don't forget to go to the gizmo.ai platform, go to the deck Mr. Hambury, and there you'll find all the relevant flashcards. And you can see for grade 11 there's 286 cards. And as you go in, you can go to any one of these items, and I will be updating that based on everything I'm sharing here. So yes, you've got all the tools. So let's dive into our PowerPoints. Let's revise on what we have done for the term. Okay, so we started off with memory, processing, and storage. So you want to know the difference, okay? Must know the difference between these, especially when it comes to memory and storage. And the slides went through what the difference is, how memory holds data and instructions temporarily, it's electronic, whereas our storage holds it more permanently. And remember, permanency in your PC simply means that when the PC switches off, the data and the programs are still there. It doesn't just disappear. So there's my first step. Difference between memory and storage, be able to give advantages and disadvantages, etc. And we'll go into more detail as we go along. Then adds, also important when it comes to this, because you must be able to identify the memory. You must be able to identify the storage. Why is one better than the other? Please don't just say one is faster than the other. You need to actually tell me why it is faster. And I'm now making as if you're writing my exam. But this is what we want to know. So with the ads, find ads online. See if you can identify everything in there. The primary storage, the secondary storage, things like that. Okay. Then our hard drives. So we have our traditional hard disk drives, like the ones that we see here. Please know the fact that at least 2 or 3 items here, it has moving parts, it's non-volatile, it's magnetic storage, whereas your solid state drives are non-volatile. They are electrical or use electrical storage, and they have no moving parts. Now, do you see the last item there? They use less power than traditional hard drives. So, that's how you need to actually tell me that when you give it to me as an answer. Then with storage, we've also got our online storage that we spoke of, where it's disk space that's allocated to you on a server on the internet, and be able to explain that and give an example. Here's just, again, a picture from your slides showing you exactly how it works, and they give you a few examples of online storage as well. With that, I always give you my recommendation when it comes to the advantages and disadvantages, know at least 2. It doesn't seem like you need to know more than that. So, you can go through the advantages and disadvantages of your online storage. This is a question that does come up often, so just a tip. Then, the difference in between online storage and cloud computing. What is the difference? Do you understand the difference? How does online storage differ from cloud computing? Because now we are actually working from a program that's based over the internet. Okay. Then things like backing up. What does it mean to back up? Why do we back up? We back up because the original files or folders might get damaged or lost. All right. With a backup, there are certain backup policies. Things like the fact that your backup should be easy to restore from. It should be quick and easy to make a backup. And you obviously have popular backup strategies like being able to back up to a flash drive, portable hard drive, and then online storage, as we just saw. Okay. Then also the difference between backups and archiving. And most of you know archiving from your WhatsApp chats. Yes, when you archive that chat that you don't want anyone else to see, right? Are you deleting that? No. Are you creating a copy of it? No. You are storing it somewhere else until you actually want to use it again. So backups are essential, but archiving is not. Then troubleshooting is going to come into the mix as well. So maybe with the backups, what sort of issues can come up? Maybe you've got issues with the actual flash drive or files have changed. Maybe you're backing up via a CD or DVD and it doesn't want to read. Maybe you need to clean it. You also need to know these terms like formatting and reformatting. So they tell us formatting is preparing a disk to store data. Reformatting simply means you've already done this and there's data on there and now you're doing it again and it clears off everything for the new data that you're going to be putting on. Disk scanning. Here's a tip of mine. Disk scanning always comes up. They'll ask it in a scenario of some kind, but it's there to fix problems on the hard drives, SSDs, and flash drives by running a disk scanner. Ever notice when you plug the flash drive in, you get that message that pops up? Yeah, the one that you don't read and you just say don't scan? That one. Okay, so it checks a hard drive for errors and bad sectors. And then the most famous of them all, the disk defragmentation. So we are told the more the computer gets used, the more the files get scattered onto a disk, and this utility puts the parts of files back together again and speeds your computer up. Okay. Then another one that also comes up regularly is your disk cleanup, and this is obviously when your hard drive is getting full. Disk cleanup runs through temporary files, deleted files in the recycle bin, those type of things, and it tries to free up more space for you. Okay, then on the processing side, we've got our various components, our motherboard, our CPU, RAM, and ROM. Please know the difference between all of these components. Know the difference between your random access memory or your RAM and your ROM. Know how the speed is measured. Know the fact that one is volatile, one is non-volatile. And I would say ROM more than RAM. So just be aware of that. Right. Then we also have our cache memory. Now this is high-speed RAM that's placed between the CPU and the RAM, and it can be accessed faster than RAM. Now, what is it used for? There they tell us. It's used to store program instructions and data. Very small capacity. Okay, so like kilobytes. Then the process of how the PC starts up, and I'm just going to click through all of this because by now you should know. You want to know terms like booting up, the fact that the first screen that we see, once our PC loads is our desktop, if you haven't got a username or password. So remember the fact that we switch it on. The ROM then checks all the hardware for us, checks that everything is okay. It then gives instructions to the CPU. The CPU looks to find the hard drive and the operating system on it and then loads the operating system. And that brought that particular module to an end. So then we went on to, I think it was 2.1 and 2.2, which was with networks. Now we need to just pause and just remind ourselves what a network is. When we think of a network, we're defining it with three main points. Number one, the fact that there are two or more computing devices connected to one another. Number two, they are connected through some sort of media. That means it can be wired, it can be wireless, whatever the case. And why are they connected? For the purpose of sharing files, folders, data, information, whatever it is. So those are our three main components to understand what a network is. And so when we look at our different type of networks, like our PAN, HAN, LAN, etc. A PAN, your personal area network, that's the one that's like it's you, your phone, and your laptop. And the phone's connected to the laptop via a cable. The HAN is your network within your home environment at home. So we then go over to a LAN. That would be a network like at your school. Now, if you have a computer lab at your school, which you should have because you're doing the subject of CAT, you'll know that all your computers are linked in a network, and usually you'll just have one printer, okay? Because we can share resources over a network, which is an advantage. Okay, so you do get these different types of networks. Know them. They won't always ask all of them, but they'll ask some of them. The ones that they do tend to want to ask you the difference on is at the bottom there, the difference between the internet and the intranet. Okay. Then the basic components of a network. This is stuff that definitely comes in, where they give you scenarios and ask you, well, what's the difference between a client and a server? So there we can see, what is the client? The client is connecting to the server in order to get a particular service from the network. The client connects to the network that's provided by the server computer. Now that client can take the form of being a desktop, laptop, tablet, whatever is connecting to it. The server is the one that's providing the services, like the ability to be able to print over a network, get into the email, internet, whatever the case is. So those are some of the components. So how do we know that we're connected to a network? And this is a typical question that comes up. Well, we can look and see the presence of logical drives. Now let me just open mine. So this is my Windows Explorer, and here you can see I've got all my normal icons on the left there, my navigation pane. But as I go down over here, there's my flash drive, and then I can say, okay, well, if I look at this PC, I've got my local hard drive, I've got another device in there, another hard drive, this is a flash drive, and then, do you see there? Network location. Do you also see here at the bottom, I've got this icon here that shows that I'm connected to a network. So these are just some of the ways that I know I am connected to a network. Know these things. Okay? Know these things. Then some of the hardware involved. I need to have a network interface controller or a network card, right? What does it do? You need to know what it does. You need to know the fact that it can be physical like that to connect wired or wirelessly. Then we also have our switch. Now, just understand, even though it says here to connect computers in a network so that communication can occur, a switch is a smart device, right? So what that means is when network traffic is going through, it knows how to be able to actually move that data from one port to the next, whereas your hub will take that data and it will just share it to everyone that's connected to that particular device. So there is a difference between your hub and your switch. This is why most of the time we just talk about the switch. So that's where you'll see the switch in your network. Here, again, a shopping center. We've got a hotel, a restaurant, and the phone is able to connect. People are connecting with laptops, etc. I mean, when you go to the shopping center, these are the things you guys are doing, right? These are things you folks are doing. Then the communication methods. They then spoke about wireless LAN. So this WLAN is your wireless LAN compared to your LAN, what the advantages are when it comes to that. Other communication methods. Remember when we said in our definition, you can connect by being wired or wireless. In other words, cables or wireless. And our two most popular ones are our unshielded twisted pair and our fiber optic for our cables. And then with our wireless, we've got wireless access points and wireless enabled or wireless adapters. So when we look at our cables, let's just have a look, and I'm sure you've seen this before, what our cables actually look like. This is our UTP cable. Can you see that there's a twisted pair of cables? This one is also twisted, but this one has like a silver shielding. Look at the name. Unshielded twisted pair. Is that the twisted pair? Yes. Is it unshielded? Yes. Look at this one. Twisted pair? Yes. Is it shielded? Yes, it is. Okay. So there's our cables. The UTP is the most commonly used network cable. And you can see your categories here just indicating how much data can actually be transmitted over that cable. Now, this is what a fiber optic cable looks like. And we've got our glass tubes there because our data is transmitted via light. It is a bit more brittle, but it does transmit a lot faster as well over much longer distances. So you need to know maybe just two differences between the two. Now, they might or might not ask you when it comes to wireless, these specs over here. The 802.11 spec, if you see that listed under the specs of a computer, you know you're actually dealing with a laptop because it will have a wireless adapter. And depending on the letter that you have next to the 802.11, that indicates different speeds. Always remember that your wireless LAN will be slower than a cabled LAN because of stability. Okay. Then we move on to network software. Now, you obviously need a program that's able to connect you to a network. Because, I mean, you've got all the hardware in place, so we need software. And most of our operating systems have that capability built in. For larger networks, they remind us you've got server editions, etc. And that's okay. Okay. Then they went into the advantages and disadvantages of the LAN. You can go through that. Like I said, you need to only know like 2 of them, what some of the disadvantages are as well, and then the additional potential disadvantages if it's wireless. So these over here is taken into consideration that it's a wired network. This one is, listen, if it's a wireless network. Okay. Now, the next section I've put in, and I put it in because you're going to end up using this in grade 12, but you might end up using it now as well. You might not use all the info, but I'm giving it to you anyway. Network topologies. Now, this refers to the layout of devices and their physical or logical connection using the cables. I want you to spend some time, pause the video here, read through all of this, because I'm not going to do all of these things now, but I want you to just get yourself aware, get yourself knowledgeable on this in case it is asked. It is something that comes up in grade 12, by the way, so it's good to have that knowledge now. Okay, so I've listed some advantages and disadvantages with each one of these topologies. And again, just because a network is structured a certain way in terms of how the data is transmitted does not mean that's what we see in the classroom. We've got our star topology, our ring topology, our mesh as well. Okay. Then when it comes to basic network security, because obviously we want to keep the network secure, our module went through talking about how we can keep it secure with usernames and passwords, restricting access, making sure the password is secret, changing it regularly, all that type of thing. And then also how to manage our passwords. You want to make sure that it's 8 characters long. It has a mixture of uppercase and lowercase. You don't use anything that's easy to guess, like your girlfriend or boyfriend's name or your cat's name, right? No. You want to change the passwords regularly, and this, unfortunately, is an example of a good password. The module then ended with the ethical use of networks, right? Ethical practice. In other words, how to use what you have responsibly. Okay, and this is where an acceptable use policy comes in. So know what an AUP is, know what it does, know how it can actually help within a network. I mean, if you go to the shopping center and you connect to their network, they'll give you X amount of data for X amount of time. That is their acceptable use policy. Then some of the things that have to be included in the AUP, you can read through that as well. Okay, so the AUP is important. We'll sometimes find that in the match the column and things like that. The next one went on to the browsing experience. So this actually touched a lot on HTML if you've started that already, because we look at the usability of websites. What do we look at when we say this is a good looking website? This is a website that I actually like. Why? Because the readability is good. It's not hard to read. You don't have 1,000 different fonts on the screen. You've got headings, you've got short paragraphs, columns. You've made sure everything is sort of grouped together. Everything looks good. You don't have shocking backgrounds. You have backgrounds that are nice and easy on the eye as well. Then navigation plays a whole role. Plays a massive role in this, because your main links should be easy to locate and identify. They should be short. There shouldn't be any broken links. I mean, there you've got navigation. You can clearly see at the bottom. You've got home, you've got books, exams, so you know where to click and you know what it's going to take you to. You also want to be consistent with your website, using the same basic layout as you can see in this, the same colors, the same fonts, or particular theme. You want to make sure your layout is correct, right? That it's best suited to your particular audience, that the text and graphics that actually fits to standard monitor sizes and resolutions. When it comes to your typography, please ensure you are not using 100 different fonts, as I mentioned before. You want to use fonts that are actually commonly used on people's computers so that it'll be able to open up. And then some other factors are things like speed. Nobody wants to sit with a website or go into a website that's going to take forever to load. No, we don't want that, right? So you want to look at that. You want to make sure that what people do on the website is private, especially when you're dealing with online stores. Okay, that's a huge thing. You want to try and protect it from any sort of malware as well. There's spyware. I mean, yeah, we know there's a software that is doing what? That's tracking the way you use the computer, tracking the way we use our internet. So that's another piece of software that's harmful there. We've also got adware. Adware must just be the most irritating one of the lot, because it just displays a whole lot of ads when the program is running and just pops up all the time. But you can get software to sort that out. And then also evaluating websites. When we are going through websites, when we are looking for information, doing research, you want to make sure that you are able to work out what is fake news, what is actual proper solid news, what news is there that it looks a little bit questionable, even though the website itself looks like it's a trusted site. So you just need to bear that in mind as well. Then there's clickbaiting. Most of you know about clickbaiting as well. You need to watch out for propaganda articles. They're just mentioning all these things. Take a closer look beyond the headline. Check your sources, check the facts, all of those things. And then the last one in the mix was module 7.1. So this, how can I say, it sort of comes on a lot from your pets. So if you've been busy with your pet, a lot of these questions go towards that. What is your task? How are you getting the info? All of these different things. Formulating there, you can see a task definition. So this really focused on the pet. Open questions, closed questions. But there are going to be questions in your theory paper that's going to revolve around this. So this is why I am including this as well. You need to know the differences between these different types of questions, what a task definition is, how to find information, general tips on how to set questions, surveys. Why do we use surveys? How do they help us collect data? The benefits of surveys. Working with online surveys. Why would you do that? What are the advantages of that? And there you can see they mention the different types. So with this, you need to know the scenario. And then with the scenario, you answer the question to that particular scenario. And here they give us a few examples of survey questions. There you can see as it's highlighted. And then they just gave you just some guidelines for setting questions in a questionnaire. I think that was really it. Okay, they spoke a little bit about the layout. Again, these are things that you were doing in your pet. Yes, you were doing these things. And then one of the big things with your table was the fact that you needed to check whether the information that you are getting, is it objective? Who's it affiliated with? Is it accurate information? Is it current information? You don't want outdated information when you're doing some sort of research. Does it cover the entire topic? Who is your target audience? Okay, and you need to evaluate the info based on that as well. And then lastly, I think here they just mention, also consider how easy it is to use the site. Aspects here they mentioned to us include things that we've looked at: the readability, consistency of the design, ease of navigation, speed of loading, whether all the links actually work. And grade 11s, that is, like I said, all you need to know in terms of the modules for this term. I did mention again to go to the gizmo.ai, check out the flashcards. All this information should be in the flashcards as well, and it's been based off previous tests for you. Okay? Everything is there that you need for the upcoming June exams. Unfortunately, I can't go through any old papers because it's going to change from school to school. Everybody's going to do something a little different. So just know the info, how to apply it, try and get some old papers if you can, and then you should be good to go for the June exam. So all the best and good luck. Right, for those of you who decided to stay here all the way to the end, here's a bonus bit for you. So I'm going to be sharing just a few things when it comes to a typical paper that you should find. So you should have, number one, a multiple choice section. Now the multiple choice section can be based on anything that you've covered in term 1 and term 2. So please know your terms, know your information processing cycle, those type of things. Then you might still get true and false. So typical true and false section. With true and false, please remember, if it's true, you just answer true. If it's false, you'll have to say that it's false and you'll have to correct the particular term. So they might have it underlined and then give you a statement and then it's either true or it's false. But if it's false, then what must that underlined word be changed to? Then when it comes to things like the match the column section, there's always a match the column section. You want to know things like your solid state hard drive. You can get terms based off of both prac and theory work. So things like page breaks, browsers, your firewall, your hard drive, search engine, browser. They can bring any one of those definitions, and then you need to match up the term that goes with that, or that describes that. So cyberbullying, conditional formatting, malware, any of those things are ones that can come up. Then the next section usually deals with hardware. And here you can get something typical like this spec list over here that you can see there. And that spec list could be then asking you questions regarding the screen, because now it's a spec list of a computer. So the hardware, the RAM, the ROM, the hard drive size, the operating system, the screen, how do we measure the screen size, the resolution, all those type of things. If you want to connect it to a network, what do you need to know? What's the difference between a client and a server? Because my machine, my laptop would be a client on a network. So, you know, what does the client do? What does the server do? And I covered this in the modules that we went through. Then also using that in a scenario of streaming. So when you think streaming, think about this. What do you need from CAT? What does CAT teach you in terms of the equipment that you need? You're going to be needing a microphone. You're going to be needing a PC. You're going to be needing certain specs on the PC, a certain graphics card, you know, things like that. I spoke about memory, storage. Please again know the difference between memory and storage. That always comes up. Then the main hardware, this is a question that comes up often. The main hardware components that you should consider when purchasing a computer for general purposes. So the computer is just going to be used for basic things. The three things we look at is the CPU, the hard drive, and the memory. Those are the things that we look at. So please bear that in mind. We spoke about online storage. Biometrics also comes up every now and then. Remember, we were using a part of our body as a security measure to obviously make things more secure when it comes to access. Then, another one is hardware, or let me put it this way. What can we do to make the life of someone who has a disability or an impairment easier when using the computer? So if I have a hearing impairment, my hearing is not so great. Okay, what can you do to make my life a little easier when it comes to using the computer? Or we can turn up the volume. Okay, but that's not going to be so good for everyone else. So what can we do? We can also have visual alerts on the screen instead of audio alerts. So that's just something basic, but those things you will need to do. Also, if I've got a computer lab like I'm sitting in one here, how can we make it more secure? How can we prevent the hardware from being stolen? How can we prevent people from loading viruses onto these computers and things like that? And then I mentioned about the networks. I think everything we've done in the module and everything I went through there is fine. The different types of malware as well, things like keyloggers, Trojans, I think I did touch on that. The different types of theft besides hardware? Because I mean, I can steal hardware. But what about things like identity theft or data theft? Okay, just stuff to think about. And then the impact of ICT, that's another one that comes up. And I'm just looking at one or two papers that I have. Difference between data and information. The point of sale system. What is a point of sale system? Point of sale system. What are some of the components that we need to have a point of sale system actually running and running well? And then ergonomically designed equipment. So ergonomically designed, keyboard ergonomically designed, mouse, whatever the case is. Why do we use it? Is it easier to use? Is it more comfortable? Right? So what is ergonomics? And one or two examples there as well. Another one that comes up with troubleshooting is usually the difference between the wired keyboard and mouse and the wireless keyboard and mouse. Okay? Then I spoke about, I think earlier in the modules, internet and intranet, and also what is driver software. That's again, these are typical questions that come up, and grade 11 now, with going through all those modules, the Gizmo AI, and what I've just shared with you, you are more than equipped for what is coming. So good luck from Mr. H.